Hey, do you teach yoga? Have you ever trained to lead yoga classes, to be a yoga therapist? Have you ever owned a yoga studio? Maybe even just wondered what it was like for the women and men up there in front of the room on their mats, leading you through endless Surya Namaskars, down dogs, and pranayamas galore? Well, these are their stories, and mine. I'm Rebecca Sebastian, a 20-year yoga teacher, 10-year yoga therapist, yoga studio owner, and co-founder of a yoga-focused nonprofit. I've done a lot in the yoga world over the last 20 years. Pretty much everything except had a water cooler. You know, a place to share stories, talk about struggles, successes, and find other people who do the same thing that I do. Welcome to Working in Yoga, a podcast and substitute water cooler for yoga folks to connect and build community, to share our unique profession, our challenges, and our journeys with the world.
Hey friends, welcome to Working in Yoga. This is week 6 of the series, The Math Nobody Does. This week we're talking about studio job math, and it's really going to be specifically geared towards independent contractors because those who have employees at their studios have a different experience, and how to enter your studio work with a deeper understanding of the math it takes to make that work. Also, have I convinced you to try a spreadsheet yet? If I have, don't hesitate to email me and tell me about it because I really would love to hear those stories. You can email me, rebecca@workinginyoga.com. Seriously, love a spreadsheet. I want you to love them too. And if you want a starter sheet on how to price your yoga offerings that has a mini spreadsheet on the starter sheet, swoon, grab it in the show notes. You can also grab a free with an email 10-page workbook if you want to go more in depth on pricing. Now, before we begin, if you would please like, follow, subscribe, 5-star review the podcast from wherever you're listening. It helps the algorithm show this podcast to more people like us, which is such a great help in letting us make more room around the water cooler for other yoga pros as dedicated as we are. Now, let's get into it, my friends, with the studio job math that nobody does. So if you have ever taught at a studio, or maybe you're considering it, there's a number you've probably been quoted since most people nowadays earn a flat fee per class. It's your per class rate. Maybe it's $35, maybe it's $50, sometimes it's $20 or $25. That number sounds like something. It sounds like a rate, like compensation, like a professional arrangement. And today I want to show you what that number actually is when you do the full math, because the per class rate is not necessarily your real hourly rate. And the difference between those two numbers is something every yoga professional deserves to understand before they accept a teaching position. And it also gives us a realistic picture of how much we're making as an industry. So, here is what the studio arrangement implies, even when nobody says this explicitly. It implies that the per class rate is your compensation for the class, that showing up, teaching for 60 or 75 minutes, and going home is the limited scope of the work. It implies a professional arrangement that is comparable to other professional work. $35 a class sounds reasonable in isolation. It sounds like a thing. What it does not account for is everything that happens outside of that class itself. There is the preparation and the travel and the administrative communication and the continuing education you're required to maintain to keep teaching, and the classes that get canceled without pay when enrollment is low. Now, that is not every studio, but also that's something to pay attention to when you're looking for jobs at studios. And it certainly does not account for what is absent. No health insurance, typically no retirement contribution, typically no paid sick days, no paid vacation, no employer taxes paid on your behalf. The per class rate is presented as compensation, and it is actually an incomplete picture of the financial arrangement that you're entering. So let's build that complete picture today. Let's talk about the real hourly rate. Start with a $35 per class rate for a 60-minute class. That is your gross income for the class itself. Now, You're going to add in your unpaid time. A conscientious teacher is spending, 20 to 30 minutes preparing for a class. You're going to review sequencing. Maybe you select music if you play music. You're thinking through the population of students that are likely to attend. For a specialized class, a therapeutic population, or a new sequence, that preparation time could be 60 to 90 minutes. You're going to add travel time. A 20-minute commute each way is 40 minutes of unpaid time per class. Add administrative time, responding to student emails if you do that, updating your bio on a student website, communicating about schedule changes. Maybe we're saying conservatively 10 to 15 minutes per week per class. So for a single 60-minute class at $35, you're realistically spending 60 to 150 minutes of total time. At 120 minutes, a conservative sort of middle estimate, your real hourly rate is $17.50. Now, factor in cancellations if your studio doesn't pay for them. Most studio employment agreements allow the studio to cancel a class with low enrollment, with little or no notice, and without paying the teacher. So if one class per month is canceled, that is a meaningful reduction in monthly income for a teacher running a tight schedule. Also factor in what's absent. Now, this is all independent contractors. If you are an employee at a studio, this will be different. But somebody earning $17.50 an hour at a traditional employer would also, and this is in the United States, they would also receive employer contributions to Social Security and Medicare of approximately 7.65% of wages, health insurance contributions averaging several $100s per month, paid time off worth 2 to 4 weeks of salary annually, and retirement contributions if the employer offers a match. A yoga teacher earning $35 a class receives none of those things typically from studios. And admittedly, it's difficult to afford those things as an employer. That is one of the parts of the system that is truly, truly broken. But a true compensation gap between a studio teaching job and a comparable traditionally employed position can be significant, and we need to talk about it because it's often the equivalent of several $100s more a month in total compensation. This math is really not complicated. It's just not done out loud very often. And here is what that means. It does not mean studio teaching is not worth doing. I want to make that very clear. It absolutely can be, and it can be worth it for building a student base, for developing your teaching because building skill set is really important, for the community and the consistency it provides. There is real value in studio work beyond that per class rate. But it means that going in knowing what you're actually earning is incredibly important. And it means not mistaking the per class rate for your real compensation. It also means that you have to understand what a schedule of 5 studio classes per week really is. If you're making if you have 5 classes a week at $35 a class, it's not just $170 to $5 a week job. It's a job that requires significantly more of your time and resources than that number reflects. And it also means that when studios talk about being unable to pay more, which is often the case, the conversation that needs to be had between you and the studio owner should include the full picture of what teachers are actually contributing and what they're actually receiving. And that's different at every studio. The per class rate has become a way sort of obscuring the real economics of studio employment. And yoga professionals on both sides deserve to see those economics clearly. So know your hourly rate, then decide whether the arrangement is worth it with clear eyes and not optimistic math. Okay, the per class rate, the whole point of this is the per class rate is not your compensation. Your time is valuable, and I want you to include all of that time when you think about what you're getting paid. It's just that per class rate is just one part of a financial picture that deserves to be seen as a whole. Do your math, my friends, and make your decisions accordingly. Okay, I'm so grateful that you're here listening with me today. I have 2 more episodes in this series before we start a new one. But until then, let's go get to work, and I will catch you around the water cooler next time.